We've got from Dirty Sweater Productions, Kyle Kleege, and Dan America, who you know from Q1057 and with Free Beer and Hot Wings and all of that.
Free Beer and Who?
You know, you've heard of him. Kyle is a filmmaker here in the Albany area. Tell me a little bit about how you got started in being a filmmaker.
Well, I used to watch a lot of movies as a kid. Like, I knew how to work a VCR, so one of the first movies I ever watched was Terminator 2 at 4 years old, uncut.
Nice.
So I learned a lot of new words at a young age. And I used to watch that movie and Aliens a lot, so James Cameron was kind of the guy that got me started, and then it was like those two and the Indiana Jones movies, and then like after a while I figured I'm going to be a writer. As a kid I would write short stories and stuff, and I became obsessed with Stephen King, so it all kind of eventually went in a roundabout way where I was like, you know, I don't like my writing. So I decided, I'm like, I'm going to make a short horror film. I had a camera, so I'm like, screw it, I'm just going to do it. And then when I did it, I started kind of like realizing, you know, I like doing this.
Right.
From wanting to write and becoming obsessed with like wild movies as a kid, it kind of like circled back into itself. So that's where I kind of went into film. Like I didn't go to film school, I didn't do anything like that. So I just went like on my own with a camera and grabbed a bunch of friends and like subjected them to like on the first one, which was a horror movie, we had makeup and we're like no money at all, so a buddy of mine was using like toilet paper and like stuff like that and just like putting it on people,
whatever it takes, right?
And it didn't look terrible. So
how old were you when you were doing that? Was that like high school age or?
That was probably like 21 or something.
So that's when you really started to actually like make movies, you know?
And then I took one class at UAlbany, which was a documentary class, and they were like, yeah, if you have a camera or we'll provide cameras and whatnot, you can make documentaries. And I proceeded to do nothing but make short films and still managed to pass the class, which that's like, you know, my greatest triumph is finagling my way through that and still passing.
Sure.
So that kind of like got me kicked off in a professional sense where I'm like, okay, no, I can do this, not professional, but you know, like, this like is starting to make more sense. And then I got into it. I met Charity Buckby on film set, the original like horror movie. And then years later reconnected with her, and then we ended up forming a production company, Dirty Sweater Productions, LLC. It is official. So
you can find them on Facebook,
Instagram, all that jazz. And so we decided to just like, she's really good with putting together the production angle and being like, okay, I can help with like this stuff, where I'm like, okay, on that, I'm going to be a madman because I'm just going to be zeroed in on the film. So she's good for putting things together, and then I can focus on like the creative end. And she's starting to dabble more and more with her own films. Also, of which you can find all of our shorts so far on Amazon Prime.
Which is where I watched them, as a matter of fact.
Huzzah.
I got to see a fantastic scene in Bedtime with Dan America right here. being killed. Yeah. I don't want to give anything away, but a very dramatic scene. That was actually, I really enjoyed that movie. And after you being killed. No, I really enjoyed that too.
The movie provides something for everyone. Oh,
it's a horror comedy. It's it's very well done. I enjoyed that.
I made that movie after like the previous two movies, actually the previous three movies I'd made before that were all like super heavy, dark and violent, and I'm just like, people are probably going to ask me, what, like, are you depressed? Is something the matter with you?
What's going on?
So in order to allay those suspicions, I made a horror comedy. I'm like, I'm going to do something fun. And I worked with this guy in a short film years prior called Partytron, which is on YouTube. It's terrible.
What do you mean
But is
terrible?
it good terrible?
It's good terrible.
See, I love that.
What do you mean terrible? My mustache was awesome.
No, your mustache in
was
your
a
scene is
natural
on point.
mustache.
He plays a sleazy cop.
I can
and,
see that.
He has like the thinnest, just most disgusting mustache, and we were shooting in the middle of a heat wave, so that mustache was moistened the entire
just
time.
melting off his face.
So he actually gets legitimately one of the better scenes in the movie where
That's
he walks
great.
into a complete like wholesale slaughter.
You were talking about the darker side. I watched Procession, which is almost like a commercial, and super dark. That was one of the dark ones you made that you had to kind of counter effect.
I went from like Hickey, which is extremely dark and depressing. That all deals with loneliness and as by way of like taking the concept of a vampire film and exploring like a toxic relationship. And so that was that. I went from that to Procession, which is a commercial for a company advertising a new form of execution.
Yeah.
To The Lamb, which is about a priest struggling with depression, loneliness, and his sexuality. And I'm like,
I was in The Lamb.
Yeah.
You were in The Lamb.
What part did you have, Dan?
Oh, I was a sleazy guy at a strip club.
I'm seeing a real typecast here for Dan.
I had when I need a certain type, I call Dan.
You call Dan?
So I'm like, I'm working through those three movies, and I'm like, And all three of those were a blast to make behind the scenes. I had so much fun making them.
Right.
And then editing them, I'm like,
This is so dark.
I was like, oh God, what have I done? So on Bedtime, I'm like, okay, it's going to be a fun movie. We're going to have a great time. Then with a movie, there's an old saying where regular life goes on as normally and easily as possible until you turn on a camera. And that's what happened on Bedtime. So as soon as we get the camera, we have like difficulty. Like, we lost the location on the last day of shooting, so we had to, like, shrink the back end of the film. So we're like, okay, I had so many elaborate scenes, and
now they're gone.
And, like, I couldn't get a few people on, like, specific days because we had to, like, shrink everything down. So we're, like, running through, and, like, we managed to film the movie, and I'm happy with how it turned out, but it was just, like...
I assume you film all around the capital region.
Yeah.
You kind of now you go to a location. Are you a guerrilla filmmaker, or are you like going in and
we get
permission and everything?
Usually we get permission. Being a company, we try to
Sure.
act as professionally as humanly possible. So we'll get like forms and release things and insurance for locations. Occasionally you have to grab a shot here and there, but we try not to do that as often.
Sure.
On the last shoot, we had locations locked down, paid for, and insured.
Wow.
So, and we shot in like the Carey Institute in Rensselaerville. We shot at Emmanuel Thai in Albany, off of Pearl Street, and a few other places. And we got those locations. We actually like asked permission and everything, and went through like all the paperwork,
all the process, the whole deal that you have to do. What are you working on now?
I am helping edit Charity's latest movie. It's called On the Line. That's a sort of a sci-fi drama thriller about a group of people stuck in a situation I don't want to give anymore.
Okay.
Other than it's pretty wild.
All right.
I'm putting the finishing touches on a movie called Static. Which I directed, and that's another intense one. That's a dark one dealing with... it's kind of like a sci-fi ghost film where a person's hearing a loved one communicating with them, and there's a lot of body horror and strangeness in it. We shot an exterior scene at the studio.
Really?
We did. Dan was there. He was overlooking everything and making
Nice.
sure we didn't break anything.
I was directing traffic in the back.
Very good. Very good.
So I've got that, and I just recently shot a short called Messy Boys, which is a dark comedy thriller about a woman who loses her job and her life falls apart in one day, and she finds a generic help wanted ad. There's no details on it. and she answers it, and it's kind of a thriller following her, like, as she takes this job and she doesn't know what she's getting into.
Oh, wow.
So the audience doesn't know, so you're
Sure.
kind of like going
Sure.
through that. And I had an actual crew on that one. Like, that was the most legitimate film I've made so far. So I'm coming up in the world.
Is your ultimate goal to move to full-size feature films?
Absolutely.
I would assume that's,
Yeah.
kind of every filmmaker's goal.
That, like, if I can get a career, if I can make a living off of making features, I'm going to be happy. And if I can make, like, low-budget features while subsidizing my income while working on, like, TV,
Sure.
I'm fine with that. Like, I would be down to be a traffic cop on TV and be like, okay, I'm just here. I just have to, like, keep things moving, and I have no say.
Right.
And I was like, as long as I have a say on the feature films, I'm fine.
Then you go do your own thing.
Exactly.
And, make
Like-
it how you want it.
And kind of, like, pay for my life that way. And
So is that something, I know there are filmmakers that live all over the country, is that something you can do from here?
I think you can film anything, anywhere. You can make a living as a filmmaker anywhere. I think the idea that LA is
Right.
the place to
You
be
have to
is
go.
starting to go out the window because the reason why is LA was the place that had all the cameras and they
Right.
had all the equipment, and now you have the equipment. Like, we're shooting on a camera right now. You can
Right.
make a film off of this. You could do a feature on
It's
this.
like a $300 camera, and we're making,
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because as long as the story is good, it doesn't
Right.
matter how expensive the technology is.
Sure.
And the fact that everything is going that way, it's easier to become a filmmaker. It's therefore easier to make films anywhere. So Albany is also starting to become not a hub, like the Hudson Valley is becoming a hub for filmmaking now.
Yeah, there's a lot of filmmaking that happens in New York in general.
Oh yeah, but the Hudson Valley, and it's starting to move up this way. I think Albany is now starting to replace Toronto as low budget New York City.
Gotcha.
Like, we can shoot this scene here and claim it's New York City.
Well, yeah, things look like you've got a big downtown area that you can claim as New York City. Then you've got, 5 miles away, you've got woods and, country, rural, and it's kind of got everything and, everything except for the ocean here.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys see this scene from The Punisher that was shot in Albany?
Oh, yeah. It's from that one, abandoned building,
Yeah. Well, coincidentally, once it shifts into where anyone from Albany knows
Would know.
where this is Albany, they start playing this Manson song where the Manson's just screaming, "You say God and I say Satan," and it's like, of course it's Albany.
It's Albany. But, you look at big feature films. A Quiet Place 2 was filmed, in upstate New York, and there's,
The other guys shot here with the Will
The other
Ferrell
guys,
and that flick shot here. I think a few things, and it's funny because there's an older film from the early 80s called Ghost Story. It's got Fred Astaire and a bunch of other famous old-time
Older,
actors.
yeah.
A part of that movie a chunk of it shot in Saratoga and a chunk of it shot in Albany.
Wow.
And no one ever talks about that movie because it's kind of forgotten, even though it's a solid movie. But it's funny how that movie, Albany has been a thing. And then there was Ironweed with Jack Nicholson and Meryl Streep. That was all Albany. They shot the entire thing in Albany and Rensselaer and Troy.
And they shot The Time Machine.
Time Machine, Age of Innocence, the Scorsese movie was shot, and I think that's why they do the Victorian stroll now.
Sure.
And
what was the horse movie with Tobey Maguire that...
Seabiscuit?
Seabiscuit,
Yeah.
That was shot in Saratoga.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, tons of those.
This is a town that has it's a filmmaking town, but it's no one talks about it because it doesn't happen so often. Where New York City, you can walk down any street and someone's shooting something
somewhere.
And,
exactly.
I think less and less now because New York City is becoming so expensive to shoot in. And I guess I have a few
I'm sure
friends.
it's difficult.
It's extremely difficult because now there are so many regulations where you can't shoot on certain places, certain days, and whatever. And I have a friend, Lakota. He's my usual cinematographer. He lived in New York City for a time, and he was talking about how shooting down there would be insane, and it also would not happen that often. So he moved down there for the work, and then the work was just like,
just didn't happen.
No, we actually have to call you out, so you have to like fly over here. And then he was like, okay, well at least I'm close to where the people that give me the jobs are.
Right.
But like you don't work too often unless it's like a major thing, like a TV show can shoot there because they're going to have a lot of money and it's going to be constant, so they can actually pay for the locations.
Sure.
But trying to work on like a lower budget thing, like if you do it, you're not going to get paid that much because all that money is probably going to securing the location, or it's guerrilla filmmaking, and you're like, okay, we're in the subway, we do not bring a tripod, let's just get this now.
Right, do this and go.
And just hope the sound is good.
If people want to be involved in Dirty Sweater Productions in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through auditioning or just want to find out more information, do you have an audition process? Do you post it someplace specific?
We usually post things to Capital District auditions for like auditions. If you have like a business inquiry or you just want to ask a question or reach out to us, you can reach us through Instagram or message the page on Facebook. We're slowly in the process of building an actual website. We do have an email as well, dirtysweaterproductions@gmail.com, which is probably the easiest and most professional way to reach us.
Sure.
So that way, like, anyone who sees this, if you feel inclined, you can reach out and ask questions or inquire.
Do you have auditions coming up for anything?
Right now, I'm tapping out for the rest of the year.
I can imagine. Take the holidays, finish the stuff you're working on right now, and
just
take
relax.
a little break.
Charity has something brewing. It's not. I can't talk about it just yet because it's still in the process.
Sure.
So, as of yet, there won't be any auditions coming out, but you can inquire about certain things and we can put you on, like, not a waiting list, but just like, okay, that person inquired. We can then, once we do have auditions, then we can reach out to you.
I'm just going to follow Dan and see where he goes and just assume that there's a movie being shot.
Yeah, no, it's going to be dirty. Dan's going to be filthy.
He's going to be a sleazy something, no matter what it is.
The next movie, you're going to play a suburban dad, and it's just going to be the most normal role.
Taking his kids to hockey practice. It'd be perfect.
And the first one, I'm the cop, and the second one, I'm the dirty guy looking at boobies. And then in the third one, I'm the guy tossing himself around in the back of a Honda?
No, it was a Hyundai. It was almost a Honda. And then I did Partytron, which was an experience where the first day I fired the cinematographer.
Nice.
So I ended up having to do that, having to do sound, having to direct. So I basically had the camera attached to me with a microphone attached to that. So I'm covered in wires and I'm like filming everything. I'm setting up the lights. I was the crew. I was everything on that movie. So I learned through baptism by fire on that one.
I'm sure that will serve you well in the future. It probably has.
It has served me
very well.
On this last set for Messy Boys, because usually on my sets, on other sets, apparently directors don't like touch anything, don't do anything. They just exclusively work with the actors and talk to the DP. I am usually there to help because I'm like, okay, we have no crew, so help move a light. I'll help do this. So on this last set, I had a crew, so I start like moving something, and then Lakota, who's my DP, been on like the last like 5 movies with me or so. He was like, Kyle, don't touch that. I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, Kyle, you're the director. Go like sit down.
Go direct.
And it was in a time where I couldn't do anything, so I'm just sitting there while everyone's moving equipment, and I'm just like, can I help? And they're like, Kyle, just sit down. I'm like, what am I? I'm directing this movie.
It's a little awkward.
And I'm like, I have nothing to say to the actors because it's a quiet technical scene and we've already like blocked it out and gone over. So it was pretty much me sitting just in like the loneliest way possible. It's just like, I feel like I can help. I feel useless on a set I was running.
Oh, that's awesome. That's funny. Well, I can't wait to see what else you have coming up in the future. If people want to see your films, Amazon Prime, there's probably, I don't know, how many are on there? Like 6 or 7 of them probably on there?
I've got The Lamb, Hickey, Procession, Bedtime, Charity's movie Sudden is on there, so that's what, 5?
Yeah, it's like 5 or 6 that I saw on there just off the bat as I was looking. And if you have the Amazon Prime, the membership, they're all free, so you can just
and we get
grab them.
3 cents for every 6 minutes watched. So
there you go.
Help us out.
Perfect. That'll pay for a film. If you get a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
Dirty Sweater Productions, Kyle Kleege, and Dan America, who is always sleazy in his films. Look for them shooting around Albany, and look for, what was the website for auditions if people are
it's Capital District Auditions.
Okay.
I think it's a .org.
Just Google it. You'll figure it out.
It's out there.
Yeah. All right. And we look forward to what you're doing next, man. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me.